Welcome back to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunanan. Tonight's topic is, again, the future of Philippine sports, Part 2. And joining me still is Attorney Marilu Arzaga Mendoza, sports advocate. Attorney Mendoza, welcome back to our second segment.
Thank you, Buddy. Yes. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine, ma'am. Okay, let's take off from where we stopped in the first segment. We talked about how the POC seems to be undermining the leadership of not a few national sports associations. Why is this happening? Because we talked about Dragon Boat, we talked about the women's baseball team, and they were victorious. They landed here only to find out that their funds are that they have no funds.
Yes.
The Philippine Dragon Boat team, same thing. They went to the United States, they won, and they came here, and apparently Dragon Boat the POC is trying to merge Dragon Boat with kayaking, which is another sport.
Sports, yes.
Why is this happening?
Okay. Well, again, I cannot help but solely talk about the leader.
Okay.
You see, right at this point of time, between Mr. Pepin Cojuangco, and I can talk about swimming. Now, Mr. Pepin Cojuangco is the president of POC, and Mark Joseph, who has been holding on to his questionable position, have been
president of PASA.
Yes,
okay.
Have been colluding and have been in tandem in not doing sports development, but rather doing more damage to the athletes. Now, why is that? Now, they want to impose what they want. They want to implement what they feel that it is to their liking. Now, you see, Buddy, sports is performance-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Sports is results.
Of course.
You got to be objective on this. You cannot say that you don't like the face of the gold medalist qualifier, then you expunge that person out of this. No, that's not the case. But that is basically, sad to say, happening in our sports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about swimming. That's the only sport that I can talk about, Buddy. Let's talk about swimming. How many of our Muslim brothers are qualified? Have you heard them? During my time, Buddy, a lot of not known swimmers from the most corner of Holo Sulu are able to emerge from their niche when there is a call for top 8 Philippine competition.
Okay.
All those who could compete, we would have, say for example, 100 meters backstroke, we would have 5 heats. All Filipino citizens.
Open tryouts.
Open. No
Okay.
impositions of fees. Now this is a transparent competition where you're timed. The top 8.
Let the best man or woman win.
Yes, and the first placer will definitely be, first and second will definitely be the Filipino representatives. We do not have that. Did you even know that in swimming, it's like we're in the dark age. I don't even know what the Philippine record is in my sports, in my event. 100 meters backstroke during my time was 1 minute 15 seconds.
Yes.
Now you ask me, what's the prevailing Philippine record? I don't know why. There are no records.
Yes.
They don't keep records.
It seems to really be all about control and maintaining their positions in the NSA, maintaining the positions in the POC. Now, my next question for you, Attorney Mendoza, is why? What is there in the NSA or the POC that makes people want to cling to these positions like leeches almost?
Okay, well, primarily is power,
Okay.
the perks that go with it,
Okay.
the money. Now, you see, Buddy, if you are part of this POC, you are part of the international organization, okay? And as I said initially, these international organizations infuse some benefits, infuse funds. And you talk about control. If you are a controlling person, you know all of this. The messier the records, the better. Why? Nobody questions.
Yes.
Control is right there.
Yes.
Why do you think? Do they really love sports? No. The perks, the power, the money.
The money.
I mean, despite the very humiliating, debasing criticism afforded to them, I don't understand why they can still stomach and stand up and face our citizens.
Let's talk about swimming, PASA, in your experience, PASA. I understand that Mr. Joseph, and this is on record,
Yes.
he has a case before, with the Ombudsman.
Yes.
What is this case about?
It's a case of graft and corruption.
Okay.
There was a 34 million pesos infused.
Okay.
Now, as you see, there have been series of violations in this. If you recall, the PAGCOR charter has the right to infuse certain percentage of funds to PSC. That should be the regular conduit of fund infusion from PAGCOR goes to
PSC,
PSC
and then to
PSC
NSA.
to the NSA.
Okay.
Now, in this instance, there was a breach by PAGCOR, okay, from that certain percentage infused to directly to PASA. During the
So
time
it didn't
of
pass
Benigno.
PSC. It went straight to the Swimming
That is right,
Association.
and that is right.
Headed by Mr. Joseph.
Headed by Mr. Joseph.
Okay.
Now, again, right off the bat, that is a statutory violation. And not only that, the guy failed to liquidate. Now you see, buddy, in the charter, in the Republic Act, creating the Philippine Sports Commission, it has a sanction, it has a power to sanction an NSA which failed to account. And it can suspend, it must suspend the further infusion of funds.
Now, this is a no-brainer for me. So apparently, Mr. Joseph, who heads the Philippine Amateur Swimming Association, or whatever its name is today, which is the National Sports Association, he has a pending case before the Ombudsman, as you said, of a 34 million and change. I mean, as far as I know, he's still head of this NSA.
Yes.
And is he still receiving funds from
Oh
PSC?
yes, you better believe it. In the during the Olympic Games, I'm sure it did because it sent
Two swimmers.
two swimmers.
Yeah.
Of course, definitely. And you see,
Why is this happening?
Well-
I mean, if it's in the charter or the mandate of the PSC that they can sanction and withhold funds from NSAs pending cases like this, why is this happening?
well, again, Buddy, as I said, some sectors of of the Filipino athletes, under the leadership of, I think, Susan and former Senator Nikki Co Setting, already filed an ombudsman case, case before the ombudsman on graft and corruption. Now, we need people like those, people who will stand up and have these erring officials or erring persons in authority to face the consequence of these crimes that they have committed.
Given the failure of the PSC to step in.
Again, yes. In fact, the PSC, thank you for that note, PSC should actually initiate. In fact, did you know that in that same statutory provision, it must initiate cases filed against these erring NSA heads?
And
but it
today,
failed, yeah.
You had to take
That's
people from the
why-
private sector to do it.
That's correct. That's why even Richie Garcia should face all of these cases before the ombudsman for
Okay.
failing to even act up on the matters lodged before him.
Why doesn't POC President Piping Cuanco, I mean, POC has, which is underneath the IOC, the POC, and it has, it recognizes the NSAs. Why doesn't he step in to sanction Mr. Joseph? Or I don't know what they have in their charter. They must have some sort of mechanism for this kind of situation.
Well, it can if it wants to, but we do not understand the affinity that these two share. In fact, Buddy, it's a very good question. Why is because Mr. Pepinco Juanco can do some disciplinary measure
Yes.
before IOC. But
Yes.
you know what? He still cuddles the guy. In fact, the guy sits, Mr. Mark Joseph sits in a position of I don't know in what capacity, but he sits in the board of the POC. Now, here in our country, there's what you call delicadeza sake, you know. If you're true to your heart, if already there is a question of your integrity, of your dignity, you step down. You step down. You are no longer credible to the people.
Yes.
Mr. Pepinco Juanco, Mr. Mark Joseph, they hold a position where it engenders results. How many years has Mr. Pepinco Juanco been sitting as president of POC? How many umpteenth times has he been hurled with criticisms? What have you done? And you're still there? Time to step down.
Well, people say that, these are non-government organizations. What can the government do? I mean, the PSC is a government agency. I mean, as you said, it should have direct control over how these funds are being dispersed. And
If I can simplify it this way, Buddy,
yes,
just like the BIR or the Securities Exchange Commission. These are the government police dogs pertaining to their relevant areas of responsibilities: taxation, corporate processing, corporate operations. These are the government entities. Now, they will ensure that each entity, whether government or private entity, will uphold the policies and the laws. That is true with Philippine Sports Commission being the police dog
Yes.
over POC and
Yes,
NSAs.
yes,
It
yes.
should ensure that they comply with the rules and regulations afforded by law. I mean, the law has given, PSC is the custodian of the law,
And it's not doing this.
and it's not doing this. I don't care whether POC or NSA would say that, hey, we're private entities, the government should not intervene. No, I say, excuse me, because these are entities which already have some entanglements with the government.
Yes.
When I say entanglements, I mean,
They receive government funds, taxpayers'
you
money.
better believe it. And therefore, PSC, as the government arm, must ensure that they abide with the laws of the land.
But then, as you mentioned earlier, reportedly, PSC Chairman Garcia owes his position to POC President
Yes.
Peping Cuangco, being the uncle of President
our-
Benigno,
yes.
Benigno Aquino III.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is supposed to be, President Benigno Aquino III has made Daang Matuwid, or good governance, his platform. And I think this is one instance where he should really step in and put his foot down, because, suffering here is Philippine sports. And tell me, Attorney Mendoza, what is important about sports that we should really focus on this for nation building?
Again, Buddy, sports should partake a very important role. If it does not, or if it did not, then why is it that there is a specific provision in the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, where the state mandates sports education, sports programs to foster international competition so our citizens would develop discipline, teamwork, healthy and alert citizens, which means our lawmakers, the leaders of the country, envision that sports is very important in nation building.
Sure.
Now, if our president will only, Buddy, and now at this point, if I use this venue to appeal to him, if only he will give priority, not only to the political activities, economic activities, but see, sports is an arena where it can develop future leaders.
Yes.
It's mental, cognitive, and emotional development. You can derive that
Absolutely.
from athletes
Absolutely.
in sports. So therefore, our government, the executive branch of the government, must implement rules, must take the leadership. In fact, Buddy, in the Constitution, it further states that the educational institutions must have sports programs and activities. You see, that alone should be given great credence and importance. There should be proper coordination of school activities. Now, let's take, for example, why is it during my time, Buddy, when you become an athlete, they would always say, oh, well, she's a #1 athlete, but she performs poorly in academics. Why? Right off the bat, you can see the lopsidedness of its coordination. The government, our president, must coordinate with the Department of Education.
Of course.
I call that periodization.
Yes.
The government must set its academic subjects and must allocate time for training of athletes. In that way, it will not run afoul with the time.
Absolutely.
You see, you have a Juan de la Cruz student waking up at 5 o'clock up until 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Where is sports training there? You see? So it's either the child would choose sports or academics.
Well, that's one of the concerns that Senator Trillanes in his proposed bill wants to address.
Yes.
The creation of, the abolishment of the PSC and the creation of a Department of Sports. Are you in favor of this proposal?
Oh, yes, I am. In fact, further to that, Buddy, although there are snippets of laws in the BIR rules and regulations where, you know, if you donate to charity or some social economic activities, you get some tax breaks. I think this should be promoted soundly. This should be a campaign to the government, or rather to the private sectors. It's one way, it's one avenue where we can encourage private sectors. Perhaps our head of the BIR must, Attorney Kim Menares,
Yes.
must come out with a sound program that if a private entity shall donate X amount of money, there will be a huge tax break.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
this is a very good come-on.
Absolutely.
To really flow in to our sports development. Not only the Department of Education, the BIR, the local governments,
Yes.
body, all of this must work hand in hand. That's why the President, in his Daang Matuwid, I think is on the right track. I think the President must ensure that sports takes top priority, likewise with any other projects that he's trying to promote and endorse.
Yes. Attorney Mendoza, we have a few minutes left. And I understand the POC is at a crossroads because there will be an election for president, for POC president in November, where I understand Mr. Cuangco is running again. And running against him apparently is Mr. Go Tengkok, Patafa president. Would you like to say something in the audience, maybe to the NSAs watching us now, given this very momentous occasion in POC history?
Yes. Well, I'd like to address it to not only to Mr. Pepin Cuangco first, and to the rest of those contenders. If you think you have the passion, if you truthfully think that you can contribute and you can make a change, go ahead. But if you think you're just right for the power, you're just right for the perks, for Pete's sake, you better scram and get down. Enough is enough. I mean, you've not only double duped the country, the athletes, you've robbed them. You've robbed them of the pride and the honors. Be sensitive, be truthful to yourself. And to those NSAs, por favor, okay, please, be a good voter. You guys are allocated with one vote. Use it sensibly. Use it wisely. The thing is, every time there are international games, all sectors of the country talk. Everybody gets to be gung-ho about this and that. It's a ningas kogon. No. We have to have a long-time sports development. This does not happen overnight. When Singapore, before the 2012 Olympic Games, says in 2012, we will have 2 medals. Buddy, they did it. In their last statement, they said, in Rio de Janeiro, we will have 6. I'm sure they will. Why can't Philippines do it?
Yes.
So for the leaders, our athletes will never run out of the energy. Our athletes are like kids. To even delegate them to robotic stage, they are like robots. They will follow. But you leaders, be sensible. I have been there. I know what it is. You get out of their way. Be more a contributor rather than a destructor. Don't be a destroyer. And for the President of the Republic of the Philippines, I like your Daang Matuwid. It is a good vehicle to take off. I like to take off with you. But please, have that willpower. Much as I have seen it, you did it in the local governments. Under the leadership of Robredo, you did it with the current appointment of Commissioner Padaka. Get it done for Philippine sports. We need you. We need someone like you. Let's not do any lip service. We want actions. After all, the athletes do actions to bring forth medals. We bring in, we brought in, they bring in and carry the flag of the Republic of the Philippines. So, buddy, that is my appeal. And, you know, I thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
You have given so much time for sports. I think you ought to be given some kind of a great recognition for that. You have been listening to us, and I encourage the media, don't be scared of gag. Unless and until the courts of law issues injunction, por favor, I encourage everyone, be transparent. Don't be intimidated with a clout. Do not. expose whatever is to be exposed. Just like what we're doing here, we may be a faint voice, but given the opportunity of united effort of the media, I think this area of sports, this area will be great again. And we will be known.
Thank you, Attorney Mendoza, and more power to you, ma'am. And please continue your fight. We're here to support you, and let's all hope and pray for the best for Philippine sports.
Thank you very much, and for the GNN, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the future of Philippine sports. Rest assured, we'll be covering this feature, this topic in the weeks and months to come. Join us again next week here in the show where we talk about what matters to you, because you matter the most. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Well, again, I cannot help but solely talk about the leader.
Okay.
You see, right at this point of time, between Mr. Pepin Cojuangco, and I can talk about swimming. Now, Mr. Pepin Cojuangco is the president of POC, and Mark Joseph, who has been holding on to his questionable position, have been
president of PASA.
Yes,
okay.
have been colluding and have been in tandem in not doing sports development, but rather let's talk about swimming. How many of our Muslim brothers are qualified? Have you heard them? During my time, buddy, a lot of not known swimmers from the most corner of Holo Sulu are able to emerge from their niche when there is a call for top 8 Philippine competition.
Okay.
All those who could compete, we would have, say for example, 100 meters backstroke, we would have 5 heats. All Filipino citizens.
Open tryouts.
Open. No
Okay.
impositions of fees.
Welcome back to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Cunanan. Tonight's topic is, again, the future of Philippine sports, Part 2. And joining me still is Attorney Marilu Arzaga Mendoza, sports advocate. Attorney Mendoza, welcome back to our second segment.
Thank you, buddy. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine, ma'am. Okay.
Doing more damage to the athletes. Now, why is that? Now, they want to impose what they want. They want to implement what they feel that it is to their liking. Now, you see, buddy, sports is performance-oriented. Sports is results.
Of course.
You got to be objective on this. You cannot say that you don't like the face of the gold medalist qualifier, then you expunge that person out of this. No, that's not the case. But that is basically, sad to say, happening in our sports. Now, let's talk about swimming. That's the only sport that I can talk.
Let's take off from where we stopped in the first segment. We talked about how the POC seems to be undermining the leadership of not a few national sports associations. Why is this happening? Because we talked about Dragon Boat. We talked about the women's baseball team, and they were victorious. They landed here only to find out that their funds are that they have no funds.
Yes.
The Philippine Dragon Boat team, same thing. They went to the United States. They won, and they came here. And apparently, Dragon Boat the POC is trying to merge Dragon Boat with kayaking, which is another sport.
Sports, yes.
Why is this happening?